Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 176 of This is the G Podcast. Yes, what's going on? What's going on? Tommy B is in the building. All eyes on the debt ceiling. Biden goes to the G7 and has to come back because of the debt ceiling. And we lost actor, NFL Hall of Famer, and activist Jim Brown this week. And Mike's going to be talking about that. Tonya B is also going to give us an update in the T. And is Ron Disaster and the Legion of Doom, also known as the GOP, about to blow up Florida? I mean, we'll see. We'll see. He's talking about running for president and announcing it this upcoming week. We'll see. We'll see. News with Syracuse Mike is coming up. Talib Shabazz of the famous Earwax Records is going to jump on. We're going to talk about the John Morant issue. Also, Tonya B is here with T. Coach Art's jumping on to give us a sports update. Been a while. Thank you, Coach Art. And Vi's back with the benediction. But before we do all that, let's do news with Syracuse Mike. Mike, here we go.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
On the day that another White House meeting was scheduled, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen again warned that no deal on raising the debt ceiling soon could mean a catastrophe for the U.S.
The U.S. economy hangs in the balance. The livelihoods of millions of Americans do too. So there's no time to waste.
According to Politico, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said after Tuesday's meeting that the structure of the negotiations had improved. He also said President Biden has agreed to designate someone to represent the White House in direct talks with the Speaker's team. Several national news outlets are reporting that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to officially enter the 2024 presidential race next week to challenge Donald Trump for the Republican nomination. That news comes as Disney announced that it is scrapping plans to build a new billion-dollar office complex in Florida that was set to also bring thousands of jobs. DeSantis has been in an ongoing war with Disney after the company voiced opposition to what's been referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill. President Biden is attending the G7 summit in Japan while staying in close touch with his negotiators back home as the debt ceiling deadline gets closer. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says both sides are making progress, but
we're not there. We haven't agreed to anything yet, but I see the path that we could come to an agreement. And I think we have a structure now, and everybody's working hard. And I mean, we're working 2 or 3 times a day, then going back, getting more numbers.
The president is cutting the rest of his overseas trip short and returns to the U.S. on Sunday. NFL Hall of Famer Jim Brown has died. He was 87. According to his family, he passed away at his home Thursday night.
Appreciate you, Mike. Thanks for the headlines. Talib Shabazz is here, man.
What's happening?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you, bro.
Good to be back on the G podcast.
Thank you, man. Thank you for, as I say, thank you for being a G. So appreciate you. You know, but Talib is here because I wanted some insight into the John Morant situation. You know, for years Talib was half of Earwax. Definitely dealt in the hip hop community, the music community, and I do think, and maybe I'm wrong, I think some of this has cultural undertones. And you know, I reached out to you, man, because I'd like to hear your thoughts. So Talib, you know, what are your thoughts on this, man, on this John Morant?
Well, you know, it's I can see it from a lot of different angles. You know, number one, I've been a business owner, so you know, if I have a business, I want people to buy into my corporate culture. You know. Yeah. I want them to feel, I want to feel like if I'm bringing somebody on, that they're going to follow, you know, the protocols of what I've established in my business because they're representing me, you know, and they're representing this name, you know, and that's very important, especially when you're dealing with, you know, corporate-minded Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I also see it from the standpoint of there are a lot of people in the younger generation that don't necessarily have the emotional maturity, I guess,
You can say it any way you want.
Yeah,
This is a podcast, but I get what you're
but,
saying.
they
I
don't
agree.
really the thought process and how they get to their answers, leaves a little bit to be desired. I don't think that a lot of the younger folks or the people of this, the now generation, they've got a different way in which they process information based upon.
But let me ask you, when you're saying that, right? When you and I, we're of an age, we've seen, different generations of NBA. I go back, I grew up. Dr. J was my guy.
Right.
I grew up in the Dr. J era, the George Gervin. Now maybe Jay was older and more mature because he went through the ABA before he came to the NBA. Right. But I'm just curious, man, because are the younger guys who came out of college into the NBA different from the guys now? I mean, the same age?
Yes and no. Bottom line is that the 23-year-old is a 23-year-old, and based upon the experiences of that 23-year-old, they could be very mannish, very worldly, or they could be, still kind of sheltered and, a little more childlike because of how the nurturing was.
Well, on that note, I will say this. Daryl Dawkins did some dumb shit.
Man. I mean,
Moses Malone out of high school.
Right. Gilbert Arenas.
But
you know what I mean? That's what I even want to take it back to, is that, listen, man, I'm not trying to say that young folks ain't going to do something stupid, because I know most of the dumb things that I did were between the age of about 14 and, 27. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a wide range, but
again, I'm just saying, I don't really do that much dumb stuff anymore.
Good.
At about 27, that's when I was like, oh man, well look, I can't just be this. I can't just do this. I can't just say this. These things have consequences. The actions, the things that I'm doing have a direct relation in terms of, where I'm trying to go and who I'm trying to be.
Okay. So you got the NBA culture thing, right. Maybe the man child.
Well, I'll tell you too, man. Let's look at it like this.
Okay.
You mentioned Dr. J. When the ABA started to come, what part of the attraction of the ABA was that they were flashier players. These guys were doing things in the ABA that the NBA necessarily wouldn't allow in the style of play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the ABA was the Bob Cousy, Red Auerbach, Celtic kind of
exactly.
league,
and if I remember correctly, in the documentary of that time, of that whole period, they didn't know how to handle Dr. J when he was coming into they did not want that. That wasn't basketball. That wasn't a pure basketball. How you gonna dunk a ball? We shoot jump shots. You know what I mean? And that's what I was saying. The corporate-minded Caucasians, because of how slow they are to adapt and see what's coming next. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
In terms of how corporations move, most of them move like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if we got to be dinosaurs, you want to be a raptor. But that's not what these people are doing. I mean, think about how they looked at Allen Iverson. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
In 2005, there was a article that I was reading. Phil Jackson wrote on the ESPN website in 2005 that the players have been dressing in prison garb the last 5 or 6 years. You know what I mean? Talking about this gangster thuggery stuff. You know what I mean? It's like that. You know what I mean? Sometimes
I hear you. I mean, I think, and here's, I'll break it down. I think there were 3 phases of there've been a couple of phases of the NBA. I think the drug phase was heavy in the 70s where, they eventually had to issue drug testing.
Right.
When Stern got Stern,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, and put his foot down. He had to,
I mean, come on.
because the league was, league was crumbling. guys going to the free throw line with red eyes. It was, they didn't want that image. The next image is the image you talk about, the Iverson era. That's where the hip hop culture, the clothing, and Larry Brown lost his mind at the Olympics and came home and said, look, we got to issue some kind of, mandate about what they wear. And that's where the clothing, the dress code came into effect. And now, man, this John Morant issue, man, I think it's leading to the next phase. And all of this, I think you're absolutely right, man, from a standpoint of culture, man, because, as the hip hop culture has gone from the Iverson phase to where we are now, it's edgy.
Yes.
That doesn't make it right,
exactly.
But it's edgier. And then it comes down to, okay, as an individual, as a player, how much am I going to expose that's part of my lifestyle? Because there've been rumors about Harden,
and see,
I won't get into, but go ahead.
The thing is this conversation, or this type of incident where it's a repeat of the same exact behavior shows that number one, that's not really where I am mentally just yet. I'm not there because I'm still trying to, you know what I mean? I'm still trying to, I'm trying to, feel my way through this whole thing. And mentally, I'm not ready, because it's like, if you say you understand I shouldn't have a gun anywhere around me, then really the only place that my gun is going to be is at the house. And it will be in a safe, or somewhere out of the way. And that's just it. I think like that as a 53-year-old man. I think like that as a 27-year-old man. I don't know if I would have necessarily felt that same way as a 23-year-old man, maybe, but 23-year-old, as a 23-year-old, I had a son. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, well, let me say this though. You make a good point, but let me say, man, when he just lost the Nike deal, as we tape today, Nike has taken his shoe off the off their website. The other thing is, with the amount of games that he was actually suspended, he lost $40 million because he couldn't make all NBA. He couldn't get the max deal. So, all this money he's losing, and there are people who are saying the next phase should be a full season suspension. You're hearing the 40-game suspension. I hear, like Mark Lamont Hill, who's on the grill, his attitude is he didn't break any laws, don't come down on him. Whereas, Jamil Hill, who used to be on ESPN, is saying, give him the max.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And my only concern, man, is not necessarily what he does, because honestly, it's up to you individually, man. If that's your money, if you want to, throw your money away and do that, as an employee of the NBA, like you said, it's a corporate situation. Yeah. They have a right to control their image, and personally, each individual has a right to control their image. But I will say, man, that it's tough for me when it's the second time.
Listen, it's not just the second time; it's the second time in a couple of weeks. Basically,
yes.
You know what I mean? Yes, these incidents were 3 to 4 months apart, but we're talking weeks, because it's like.
It's still fresh.
It's still fresh, man. It's like, man, and all I could think about is, it's like, if I'm sneaking out of the house, you know what I mean? If I'm a 16-year-old trying to sneak over to my girlfriend's, and I get busted, do I make the same mistake and I go on punishment for 2 weeks? As soon as I get off punishment, it's like going back and trying to
do it again.
Like, yo, man, like we just talked about this, man. What do you know?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I think that. Well, I think like I said, I think that there's a couple things at play. Number one, it's the hardheadedness. You're a hardhead.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if when I'm paying you literally this amount of money, I need you to not be a hardhead. And so I don't know if you're going to fit into the corporate culture.
Right.
Number two, it's like, man, we just talked about this. Like, yo, I'm not trying to. I'm your dad. If I'm your dad, and I'm not trying to spank you. I just told you, that this is. I let you get away with it. I'm not going to spank you this time, but now you're doing it again. So now I got to spank you. You know what I mean?
And you just did the counseling.
Exactly.
You just did the video.
Exactly. And then you have to look at the culture that not only supports me being, everything's on live, my whole life is in front of you. My real life is in front of you. Man, it's the gun culture. It's the gun culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you get mad at somebody for having a gun on live? And you've got senators taking Christmas card photos with their child holding the rifles? You know what I mean? You got Brian Kemp making a commercial talking about how he takes his shotgun to his daughter's boyfriend's head. Yeah. And this is on TV. This is while I'm running for governor. You understand what I'm saying?
But let me speak to that, man. I think that's all well and good, but you make millions of dollars, okay? And you are, just like I grew up watching Dr. J and some of my favorites. If Dr. J had been in a car whirling, bouncing to, it had to be Parliament.
Right, exactly.
With a gun, then you know what? As a kid, I would have said, "Oh, damn, that's cool. I want to do that." I would have said that because I love those guys so much.
Right.
So, candidly, it doesn't matter to me what Ja does in his spare time.
Right.
That's his life.
Right.
It's his money.
Right.
Honestly, Ja has enough money just to build. He has enough money, dude, to build a gun range on his property and a club within the gun range.
If you lose $40 million from just 8 games,
yes, that's my point. So for me, then the other issue, and I don't, we're gonna wrap it with this, man. But the other issues where he's accused of threatening the fan on Twitter last year. He's accused of threatening the mall security guy. He's accused of beating up the 17-year-old. The off the court, the situation with Shannon Sharp. At the game back in January, and of course, the Indiana Pacers situation where they were putting a laser, like they were putting a gun, while on the bus. Those don't make things any better.
No, it doesn't.
And honestly, I think they have to do what they have to do, and I'll understand it. I mean, honestly, I will understand if the NBA comes down hard. I mean,
because here's the thing, and this is. They
did it with the drugs. They did it with drug culture. Go ahead.
I just want to say this. Really, the whole thing that I want the only thing that I would want somebody like John Morant to take away from this is the fact that because, any one of these incidents alone would not have been such a bad thing. The fact that we're having all of these incidents almost coming back to back, it's compounding the entire issue. And it makes it bad for the next one who comes along, because now they're looking at we got the NBA countdown going on. You got Imani Bates, who's like the next big ticket. Everybody's looking at him to be the next Wonder Kid. You know what I mean?
But he's in a similar situation,
right? And they're already saying, hey man, nobody's talking about his skill level and what he's doing at the combine. They're commenting on it, and then they're ending it with stuff like but no one is going to put up with John Morant issues. You know what I
because
mean?
he had a charge where a gun
Exactly.
charge
So now we got
where he was concealing a
right,
weapon
and had weed in the car
in Michigan.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah. So
it's the trickle down thing. You know what I mean? It's looking bad, and when we have these incidents coming back to back to back like this, it no longer becomes just this is a young person thing. You're not thinking clearly. It becomes it's more argument against. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So final. Where should we go? What should the NBA do? What do you think?
Well, listen. Obviously he's not worrying about his money, so I make sure that he has the bare minimum of whatever his contract is supposed to be. He would definitely be getting games off. How many? Obviously 8 didn't do it for you, so we'd have to increase it. There has to be some kind of punishment to let people know that you're breaking codes. But again, what I don't want to see is the anger and all the emotion that comes out of people who are not directly affected by this man's life, because he did break no laws. He broke a policy.
So do you think 40 games is too harsh?
I wouldn't want to see anybody miss 40 games. Look, man, are either going to fire me,
because there's some people talking about the full season. But
so look, at 40 games, that's half of my playing year. So look, obviously you don't want me around, or maybe you do want me around. If you want me around, then no, 40 games is harsh. If you don't want me around, then 40 games is really where it's at, because at that point I'm looking for someplace else anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say 40 games. I'm predicting that they'll do 40. Mm-hmm. And if this was David Stern, he'd be banned.
Yeah.
He'd be gone. The new commissioner's on a different, how do you say it? He's a different kind of guy. He's not David Stern. If David Stern had been commissioner today, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Talib Shabazz, man, thank you so much, bro. How can people? You want people to contact you, man?
Definitely.
Because they crazy. How do they contact you, man? I have to ask people.
It's all good. Instagram is Shabazz7, ELSHABAZZ, the number 7. Twitter is just Shabazz.
Cool. And if y'all want to chime in on the conversation, go to castropolis.net. Go to our website, show website, and there's a people poll. You can leave a comment. Of course, you know our social media. I'll give it to you at the end of the show. But Talib, man, thank you so much, brother. Bro. I knew I'd get some wisdom.
It's always something to think
out of
about,
the earwax. Out of the earwax guys always know what's going on. I don't want to sound like my dad coming at you, but there you go. Appreciate you, bro. Take care, man.
This is the G Podcast returns after this message from the city of East Point.
The City of East Point and the Atlanta NAACP present the East Point Juneteenth Celebration of Freedom 2023, Saturday, June 17th, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the East Point Commons, starring the incomparable Angela Winbush. It's Angela Winbush and Keith Washington. Loving you all through the night. With Joyce Irby at Climax. And it's absolutely free. The City of East Point and the Atlanta NAACP present the East Point Juneteenth Celebration of Freedom 2023, starring Angela Winbush, Keith Washington, and Joyce Irby in Climax. Saturday, June 17th, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Downtown Commons, 2757 East Point Street. For more information, go to KarenReneeForChange.com.
Now then, children, it's time for tea.
It's tea time, y'all. Sippin' the tea with Tonya B.
That's right, children. It's time for tea. It's your girl, Tonya B. And it's time to sip that tea. We do it each and every week right here on This Is the G Podcast. So, hey, if you miss a cup of tea, you miss a lot. Go back and download it. The show is on demand. Let me just get right to it, Tommy B. All right. First of all, we have to go to the celebrity prayer list and say, Rest in peace to former NFL Hall of Famer, civil rights activist, actor, and in some cases, another word that begins with A. I won't say what it is, Tommy B. Jim Brown. He passed away a couple of days ago, and his wife, Monique, did post his passing on Instagram. She just said he died peacefully, didn't provide a cause. I'm hearing he had been sick for a while, but heck, he was 87 years young, lived a great life. And if there's two things you remember him for, one is his civil rights activism. The other is, at least for me, the movie I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. And much like John Shaft, he was a complicated man, and you know what I'm talking about, Tommy B. And I guess no one understood him but his woman, Jim Brown. So rest in peace. Now I gotta talk about something. These movies that have come out this week, and I'm telling you right now, in case you haven't heard, the critics have ripped and bashed Fast and Furious 10 already, but they always bash. So they bash 1 through 9, nothing's different. Word from the curb is that in Fast and Furious, maybe, 11, 12, maybe 13, one major character will be no more. Word to Tyrese, get it together. It might be you, boo. I know it will not be Chris Ludacris Bridges. He got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame this week. And I love the way he said, it's not about me. And he gave mad love to the two people and even inspired him to even try to pick up a mic and bust a rhyme. And it wasn't Busta Rhymes. It was the GOAT LL Cool J and Queen Latifah. Got to give him 5 on it for that. He's doing a lot of things outside of the rap game. He's got the restaurant in Atlanta, Chicken and Beer. He's got Karma's World on Netflix. And he also just partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Atlanta. And he's getting them $100,000. 5 on it to him for that. Now we got to talk about white men can't jump. Some things don't need to be made over. Hello, LeBron James and House Party. Same person. Did white men can't jump? The only thing I can tell you about that is it's worth missing. Jack Harlow, I know you want to get your acting chops up, but you better go back to First Class. And Sinqua Walls, who we remember as Don Cornelius in the TV show American Soul. Whatever happened to that? But again, this movie has been ripped to shreds. It would never have made it on the big screen. So Hulu, do your voodoo, make it go away. Are you ready for Eddie Murphy to step into the role of Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther movie series? Remember that, like in the 60s and 70s, the actor Peter Sellers, he played Inspector Clouseau. So that might be interesting to see. Time will tell. All right, now, here's something that I'm just kind of perplexed about, Tommy B. Now, although Tupac was born in New York, raised in many cities across this country, he credits Oakland, California as the place that launched and shaped his career. So there's a stretch near Lake Merritt, if you know anything about Oakland, on MacArthur Boulevard, where he once lived, and it's going to be changed to Tupac Shakur Way. But hold up, wait a minute. If the city council unanimously voted for this honor, why is Tupac's estate being given the bill to pay for this recognition? Inquiring minds want to know, is the city of Oakland going broke? And there is no timeline for when this name change will occur. Now let's drop down to Philly. Last week in Philly, singer-songwriter the late James M. Tume, he got a street named in his honor, and his people didn't have to pay anything. So I just wonder what in the Sam Hill is going on there. I got to say shout out to Fantasia. She had a rough, rocky start in her early life. Teenage mother, high school dropout, functional illiterate. But Fanny went back to school in 2009 and got her GED. She even walked across the stage. Yes, she did. And now she is not playing. She, I think, is going to be one that's going to handle her business because she's still touring, but she's also now a student at Central State University in Ohio. What her major is? Probably business. But again, she's taken a huge step. I hope this will inspire other people to believe in the sayings and the teachings of our forever president, Barack Obama. Can we do it? Yes, we can. That's all I'm talking about. All right, now let's talk about this. The judge in the Tiger Woods case has thrown out the $30 million lawsuit by his ex-girlfriend. And you remember, she was a server at a restaurant that Tiger Woods owned. And she was worried about her future. Well, honey, how about getting a job and getting a skill besides flat packing, huh? Anyway, Tiger said, oh, no, girl. This NDA is airtight. You can't put my business out there on Front Street. You will not be out here selling your side of the story to make money off of my name. And this whole thing about, oh, he told me I could live there for 5 years for free if we broke up. Who wants to do that? You know what? Ooh, bye, Felicia. That's all I got to say about that. Now, you know, Beyonce has already told us she's not going to be out there banging her feet on the stage being Sasha Fierce forever. She's actually on the Renaissance tour overseas, and she's recovered from foot surgery. But, you know, she will always branch out into other businesses and investments. You know, she had the House of Darien, she had that the Ivy Park and all that other stuff. But now I hear she's getting into the hair biz. And heck, if the Kardashians can do it with their wig wearing selves, why not Beyonce? And you may remember, Tommy B, her mother owned one of the top beauty salons in Houston, Texas. And Beyonce basically grew up in the beauty salon. Now she's got this hair care line. When we actually will get to purchase it remains to be seen. Details being, you know, really quiet. The brand name, what the products are, when it's going to be ready. But in the meantime, Beyonce's over there flipping her hair and doing her thing over in arenas in Europe, and she's selling out. But stay tuned, because I'm telling you now, I think she's already about to start to put her retirement plans in place. In case you haven't heard, she and her husband Jay-Z have purchased the most expensive home in California with a price tag of $200 million. That's what I said, $200 million. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Country singer Jimmy Allen. Now, you know he's being sued by the former manager for a laundry list of sex offenses. Now, when he spoke out, he only did it on social media. He apologized to his estranged wife, Alexis, and his kids. In the wake of this lawsuit, Jimmy got issues. He reminds me of the Jonathan Majors of music. His record label suspended him. They are no longer promoting his music. Okay, wait a minute. His PR firm dumped him. His management firm dumped him. Okay, and so did the CMA. That's a Country Music Association festival next month. He is no longer going to be performing. Now, he didn't really address the allegations in his social media post. But he denied them, but he said, oh, it was consensual. He cheated the entire time he was married. He apologized to his wife and his kids for humiliating them. And that's exactly what he did, humiliate them. But here's the thing I'm not quite. Jimmy, you got some splaining to do. Now, he says he was sorry for humiliating his family with this affair. But then he says, I didn't do anything because it was consensual. But then he says, I'm embarrassed that my choices have brought shame on my wife. She didn't deserve this. And then Jimmy said he's no longer going to be a victim of his weaknesses. Does that mean he gonna go get some therapy? I hope he does something. All right, y'all, that's all I got. I ain't got no more. It's your girl, Tonya B. We sip this tea each and every Sunday right here on the Castropolis Podcast Network. And don't ever miss an episode of This is the G Podcast.
Hey, again, another great job, Tonya B. Thank you, Tonya B. Appreciate you. And you know what time it is.
What you watching this week, Tommy B?
But you know what? This week I'm keeping it short because I'm letting Coach Art get what I would normally do for watching. You know, the what you watching, Tommy B. And I have to agree 1,000% with Tonya B. on the White Man Can't Jump remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it. 1,000%, Tonya B. Y'all need to stop with these remakes. And you know, remakes are supposed to be an homage to the original. I realize that the original came out in 1992, and some of y'all may not have been born in 1992. I don't know if y'all check out the podcast, but some of you may not have been born. But I had the opportunity to see the original, and I'm telling you, the chemistry between Harrelson and Wesley Snipes was incredible. It was a much better script, but this is all, you know, supposed to be this vehicle for Harlow, and I'm not going to go into it. Tonya B., you did a great job. I'm just going to say, y'all need to stop. Just don't make a remake thinking that you can do it better and you do it worse. House party first, now this. Nah, don't do it anymore. If anything, I want you guys to watch this week. A lot of stuff is already gone or out of season or can't be written because of the writer's strike. But the one thing, the documentaries are still going on. And I want you to check out the Hillsong documentary on Hulu. And I know I've been watching a lot of Hulu, but Hulu really does a good job with documentaries. And I want you to check out the Hillsong documentary. Not going to talk a lot about it this week, but I'd love your feedback. Go to castropolis.net and click on the people poll. Give me your thoughts on that, man. That goes deep, a lot deeper than I thought it was going to go. But check it out, the Hillsong documentary on Hulu. Give it a shot. Check it out. All right, let's go ahead and see what Coach Art is up to. Coach Art, what you got?
This is Coach Art with the G Podcast. I'd like to send out a special thanks and appreciation for a great boxing match last night. It featured Devin Haney retaining his 135-pound belts against Vasily Lomachenko. They thrilled the crowd. There was energy on both sides. And my hat's off to Devin and Bill Haney. May their reign continue and the good fights keep coming. Also, word has it that Georgia boxer from Albany, top-ranked enlisted, Haven Brady Jr., will continue his campaign, his undefeated campaign, at 135 pounds in the Atlanta area. I'm just waiting to see when that fight comes about. Sports brings us to the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are going to have a busy first quarter the next season. That'll tell exactly who and what they are. Hopefully they get the coach what he needs to defend in the paint and a viable option off the bench to score. The Atlanta Falcons have bolstered themselves, and I hasten to say with a very fine draft that brings them viable players and depth. And the thing that has me is that they are not finished. Having secured a running back in the first of the draft with the 8th pick was a bold move. The left guard they got that'll soon, probably in a year or two, take over at left tackle appears to be the road grader that we need, that has the ability to develop into a quality left tackle. The secondary, all the pieces are shiny, all the pieces are primed, from the draft pick to the two corners they got off of trades. Intriguing part is that I'm sure that the Falcons will get other players right at the cut of the 53-man roster. I see good things. I see a 12-win season. That would be big. The NBA playoffs, well, I was the one that said Denver Nuggets. And I believe that I was snickered at. There was a pause. And I believe I heard a faint sound of laughter when I predicted that they'll come out of the West. They've been the number one seed. And right now it's pretty much taps for the Lakers. The Miami Heat has to maintain the same level of grittiness because they have the unpredictable Celtics on the ropes. This is Coach Washington for the G Podcast.
I didn't come here to preach to you today.
Here's your inspirational moment with Vi.
We may suffer for many reasons. Some suffering is the direct result of our own sins. Some happen because of our foolishness, and some is the result of living in a fallen world. Christ never sinned, and yet he suffered so that we could be set free. When we follow Christ's example and live for others, we too may suffer. Our goal should be to face suffering as he did, with patience, calmness, and confidence that God is in control of the future. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. For God called you to do good, even if it means suffering. Just as Christ suffered for you, he is your example, and you must follow in his steps. What I'm saying, no matter how bad your situation is, no matter what you're going through, and even if you think it can't get any worse, God is in control and always has been. and always will be. You will be okay because God got you. And as long as you have your faith in God, you will get through this and things will be better. Amen. Amen.
Hey, appreciate it, Vi. Thank you so much for the benediction, man. And I got to say thanks to Tonya B, of course, Talib Shabazz, formerly of Earwax, Coach Art for the Sports Report. And just thank y'all. Thank y'all for checking us out every single week and downloading the show. Again, you can check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on the multiple podcast platforms, the audio version. And also go to castropolis.net. You can go there, click on the G podcast. Everything G is there. In addition, one of the things I'd love your feedback on the show, go to castropolis.net and go to the people poll and leave your comments. You can leave voice messages and I'll play them back on the show. I'm telling you. A couple of things I want to mention before we close for my folks. Of course, I grew up semi-Swats, kind of East Point-ish. I was in East Point high school, and I bought a home in East Point. So Greenbrier Mall was like within walking distance to me. And this week, as we tape on today, on Saturday, the Greenbrier Mall Chick-fil-A closed after 56 years. Wow. Some of y'all might be saying, damn, I thought it had already left. But yeah, Chick-fil-A that was in Greenbrier Mall has closed. And might I make a suggestion to the folks at Greenbrier Mall? Go on and put a Roscoe's chicken and waffles in the mall, in the same spot. Go on and do it. Okay, that's a suggestion, a public service announcement from me. But go ahead and put that Roscoe's right there where Chick-fil-A left. Also, a correction. In my talk with Talib, I was talking about the ABA Bob Cousy. No, it was the NBA that was associated with Bob Cousy that was much more conservative. The ABA was not considered conservative, it's more flashy. And then, of course, the NBA swallowed the ABA and the rest is history. So with that, I appreciate you again. Go to castropolis.net. Everything is there. Our social media, you can go and subscribe. We're on all the social media outlets. So make sure, leave us some feedback there or at the site. And with that, episode 176 is in the can. We are out of here, y'all. Peace and power to the people. Have a great week, and we will be back Memorial Day weekend. Have a great week.